My name is Tiffany Spraggins-Payne. You are listening to Zigzag, a weekly podcast discussing women in science, technology, transportation, engineering, entrepreneurship, mathematics, and related industries. On Zigzag, we discuss inclusion and diversity news, current trends, and have special guests speak about their experiences, including their competitive edge in the marketplace. Today, my guest is Miss Jovida Hill. She is the Executive Director of the Office of Engagement for Women for the City of Philadelphia. She was appointed by Mayor Jim Kenney in June of 2016. Prior to joining the administration, she was an award-winning writer and producer for more than 200 films and videos for the education, broadcast, and training markets. Her work has included the civil rights documentary series In the Land of Jim Crow, which documents poignant first-person accounts of the African-American struggle for justice and equity. The series, Reinventing Democracy, hosted by the noted historian Douglas Brinkley. The series celebrates, which introduced children to multicultural celebrations that heralds our differences to amplify our similarities. A founding member of the African Sisters and Women's Gather Conference, Hill currently serves on the board of the Black Women's Health Alliance and the Logan Square Neighborhood Association. Welcome, Ms. Jovida Hill.
Thank you, Tiffany. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today.
Absolutely. It's an honor and pleasure to have you in studio. This is going to be a dynamic interview today because for our listeners, you're doing some incredible things over at the Office of Engagement for Women, and you have a number of initiatives that you're going to unpack for us. But before we get into that, I would love for you to define what economic empowerment for women means to you.
First of all, first and foremost, it means equal work for equal pay, that we need to change the paradigm of women earning 79 cents to every dollar that a man earns. For African American women and Latina women, it's even less. I calculated at the current rate of wage equity, my 12-year-old granddaughter would be in her 50s before achieving wage equity.
Wow.
So first and foremost, economic empowerment means wage equity. And also for Philadelphia, it's never been more important for the women of Philadelphia. If you may know, the statistics are dire. Philadelphia has one of the highest poverty rates of any large city in the nation. We're looking at a 25.7% poverty rate.
Yes.
We're also looking at 60% of all children under the age of 18 are being raised in single-family homes.
Yes.
And many of those children are growing up in those in poverty. So we have children and families in poverty. A lot of those children and family who are in poverty are being raised by single mothers who are underpaid.
Yes.
And are in low wages. So once we lift up women in terms of wage equity, especially poor women, those hourly workers, we raise the minimum wage. Getting women out of poverty will lift this city out of poverty.
That is fantastic. You know, when I think about some recent stats from the census data, on average, Black women were paid, this was in 2017 according to the census data, Black women were paid 61% of what non-Hispanic white men were paid. That means that it takes typically, Black women 19 months to be paid. Basically, a white man will take home, that amount of funds in 12 months. Talk a little bit about your experience with the Office of Engagement for Women and how you work hand in hand with these women who are, living in poverty and dealing with these disparities.
Well, one of the things under the Office of Engagement for Women is the Philadelphia Commission for Women. For the second year, we're a relatively new office. Our office and the commission came in with the Kenney administration. And so what we have done is really being advocates. Our office is an advocacy office. We advocate to the the larger audience, and we advocate internally to the administration. We're sort of the middle people between the public and the administration in terms of, I call us the social justice advocates.
Yes.
So, and wage equity is a social justice issue. What we have done for the second and in 2019 will be the third year, we'll do Equal Pay Day. Equal Pay Day generally falls sometime in April. And that's how long it takes for white women to earn as much as white men. And for African American women and Latinas, it's even a few months more than that to earn the same amount. So what wage equity and what that disparity does is for a woman's entire life, she is behind. That means her Social Security is less. If she has a pension, her pension will be less.
Yes.
Which means women are more likely to live in poverty. And so this wage gap follows us our entire lives. And in the 21st century, it's time for us to change that dynamic. I mean, there are so many things that are happening right now in terms of the precarious situation that women are in.
Absolutely.
If I might change for a minute, because I think it's all related, what's been happening in the past few weeks in Washington, in Harrisburg, this whole idea of sexual assault and sexual violence against women. I've told people that what it puts me in mind of is I can remember when Katrina hit. And it was so very powerful. And because what Katrina did, when I saw these vivid images of all of these Black people drowning before my eyes, I thought, this is what my country feels. This is how my country feels about Black people. But what I have seen these past couple of weeks, what's gone on, this is how my country feels about women. And so it's that same visceral feeling that less than.
Yes.
So I was feeling less than as an African American. And today I'm feeling less than as a woman. So to put that in economic terms, what I saw on television was a group of old white men who would go to any lengths to maintain wealth and power. And so your wealth is your power. So it's time for us to change that dynamic. Because our wealth is our power. And so we have to stem these disparities, no matter what, whether we're talking about income and we're talking about wages, we're talking about health care, whether we're talking about access to affordable health care. These disparities carry out in every aspect of our lives, whether we're talking about our political power, our economic power, our health determinations. Every aspect of our lives are determined here. So I think that our commission, the Philadelphia Commission for Women, has chosen economic empowerment as the top priority of their focus. And the reason that is because it affects every aspect of our lives. It affects our health and wellness, access to affordable health care, access to reproductive justice, access to birth control, access to abortion. Economic empowerment means access to everything.
Wow. And as I think about some of the roundtable discussions and events that you often host, birthed out of the Philadelphia Commission for Women is that the wage equity is at the top. That's core to what you all do over there at the center. But then also this notion or idea of work-life integration. Really, how can you begin to support other women in helping them to understand that what they're doing is not necessarily work-life balance, but it is the intersection of all the things that they're doing in life, taking care of their children, going to work every day, serving in their community, their places of faith and such. Also, human trafficking is another topic of discussion that you tackle. Immigration. violence against women, sexual harassment, and again, another core staple, education. Talk about how a lot of these topics of discussion kind of bubble up into some of your core or signature events that you host.
I was fortunate enough yesterday to be at a roundtable discussion with First Lady Frances Wolf, who hosted this with women from the Pennsylvania Commission for Women, Philadelphia Commission for Women, and women's organizations. And so there were all facets of women in business represented to talk about issues like wage equity and work-life balance. And it was very interesting. There was a woman who was a business owner, and she owned a home health care agency. And her issue was that she would love to pay $15 an hour to her workers, but if everybody else is paying $10 or $11,
yes,
how can she be competitive? She needs the state and the city to mandate a minimum wage, a higher minimum wage, say if we're talking $15 an hour. And if it were mandated, she can compete on a level playing field.
Yes.
She wants her workers to have a living wage. In many cases, she pays better than some of the other people in the same business. So
yes,
having a working wage is really, really important. Then there was another woman who was a business owner,
yes,
and she had a child care center. Basically, her daycare center is open from 6 in the morning to 3 a.m.
Wow.
And the reason, and she has 5 centers with that kind of scheduling. We need more child care facilities to be more flexible work hours, so that women can take these jobs that have different work hours. Child care is very, very important to economic security. I think one of the most progressive things to come out of this administration was the sweetened beverage tax that pays for child care. So it's free pre-K.
Thank the Lord.
And so that means affordable pre-kindergarten
Yes,
is available so that women have more options for work.
yes,
But what it also does is that most of these child care centers are owned by women business owners.
yes.
And so you have the multiplier effect. So basically, having funds to pay for more pre-K seats,
yes,
means that these women who are business owners, their businesses are more successful.
yes,
That means also their workers are getting better training, better pay. So you have more people working, employed in the child care category, more successful women business owners. And we also know that pre-K, quality pre-K, is a determinant for stemming the tide of the school to prison pipeline.
yes,
So this is what we mean by the multiplier effect. Take, for instance, that in that same beverage tax, it's also Rebuild is funded by that.
yes,
And Rebuild has built into it that a certain percentage of those jobs have to go to people who live in the zip codes where those rehabilitation projects are going on.
So for our listeners who are unaware of what Rebuild is, could you give a brief snapshot of that initiative?
Okay. Well, I think everybody knows that they're paying the sweetened beverage tax.
Yes.
So the sweetened beverage tax, and actually it's very progressive. Philadelphia is the only city in the nation, or the first city in the nation, who has ever been able to get a sweetened beverage tax passed. And what Philadelphia did that no other city did was, rather than having as a tax for health reasons because of the high rate of diabetes and obesity and high blood pressure caused by these sugary drinks.
Yes.
Philadelphia didn't do it as a health initiative. They did it as an economic development issue, and they did it as an education issue. So it's like, we need money for affordable quality pre-K.
Yes.
We need money for community schools.
Yes.
And we need money to renovate recreation centers.
And libraries.
Libraries, yes.
Yes.
And so it's an economic development program.
Yes.
It's win-win for everybody. So there's the employment aspect where, again, in all of these rebuild construction projects, you have these mandatory percentages of what that workforce looks like and who's going to be on those jobs. And then you have the pre-K, and then you have community schools. And community schools, I don't know if your listeners know what these are. These are public schools, but they're hubs. They're hubs for what is needed by the children in that community and what is needed by their parents. So they might have later hours. They might have social services. They might have mental health services. And so there are an array of services that children need to thrive. And so that's why they're called community schools. So there are some really progressive things that are happening in Philadelphia, and it's all around lifting our city out of poverty.
Yes. And one of the things we know is that women, we have the highest percentage of buying power. And so we're the determinants of where our children go to schools and, the household items that we purchase to, what types of affiliations we have in the community. And so because we have that influence, our voices, are really at the hem of this economic empowerment movement in the city of Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
You are going to be hosting your 3rd annual Women and Girls Initiative in March.
Yes, we're really pleased that March 22nd, mark your calendars. It's a Friday. It's going to be at LaSalle University. It's our 3rd annual summit for women and girls. Our first 2 summits that we did have been very, very successful.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to having more information, and I will keep you posted as our program and the breakout sessions become solidified and our speakers. I'll make sure that you have that information to pass on to your listeners.
Thank you. That's going to be wonderful because we're also going to be partnering with you on that event. The U.S. Department of Transportation. We have our Women and Girls in Transportation initiative where we started here in the Mid-Atlantic. Our Steel Toes and Stilettos conference, which is it's a half-day conference where we engage high school and college-age women and women business owners in a full day of educational training and learning and development. And so we're really excited about partnering with the Office of Engagement for Women this coming year on your Women and Girls Initiative because we're so aligned, right? And this whole notion of understanding equitable wage, for women is real, but also the retention of women in STEM and transportation related careers are also really at the core of what we do. And in the Mid-Atlantic, but then also promoting with the Zigzag podcast. So for our listeners, please stay tuned for this dynamic Women and Girls Initiative that's going to be kicked off and hosted by the Office of Engagement for Women.
Also, Tiffany, I would be remiss if I did not mention that on October 24th, the Enterprise Center will be our co-host for our forum on Fair Work Week.
Yes.
So if I don't know if your listeners know when we talk about a Fair Work Week, we're talking about the impact of unpredictable scheduling has on women, especially low-wage earning women, and what can legislation do that impacts employers so that people have predictable work schedules, schedules where they can pay their bills. They know how to plan for childcare. So what will a fair work week look like is particularly important to women and families because it helps them plan not only how they pay their bills, but how their children will be taken care of when they go to work. And that's going to be on Wednesday, October 24th at the Enterprise Center.
Excellent. That's going to be wonderful. So for our listeners that are tuning in, if you are interested in participating in this event, please follow us at theenterprisecenter.com. Also, you can check in on the Office of Engagement's website. And they also have a Facebook page as well.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so this is going to be a great partnership. I would love for you to talk about a fear or a professional challenge that keeps you up at night. We all have them. I would tell you mine right now, but I'm still living it, so.
Our first summit, we only had a mandate to do that summit in January and had to produce it by March.
Yes.
And that also meant raising the money to put it on because there was no budget. And yes, for that first summit, I can tell you that I had many anxiety attacks in the middle of the night. But not only did we raise the money, I had a tremendous partner who was the former deputy mayor of the Office of Public Engagement, and we pulled it off. Dr. Nina Ahmed, we pulled it off.
Yes.
And but I gotta tell you, the anxiety attacks were a killer.
I can totally empathize with that. Would you also say, though, to the contrary, that although those anxiety attacks prevailed, that you were stretched in terms of your creativity, your innovation, the relationships that you were able to form, and just the methodology or the approach was...
All of those things.
All of that.
I would underscore all of the above.
Yes.
Yes.
I think one of the most important things about the work that you're doing is really helping women to navigate adversity and self-doubt, right? And so how have you been able to build yourself back up in those very moments of adversity and self-doubt, just challenges in general?
To quote the Beatles, I get by with a little help from my friends.
I love it.
But it's so real.
Yes.
Just in terms of forging those sister relations, relying on those sister friends.
Yes. I would love for you to tell our audience what might be a quote or a saying besides the Beatles.
That's funny.
That you live by, or it just kind of, it kind of governs your stride in life.
One of my favorite quotes is from the feminist writer and educator, Anna Julia Cooper. And she said, "In the quiet, undisputed dignity of my womanhood, without violence and without suing or special patronage, then and there, the whole race enters with me." So that's my quote.
I love it. It really reminds me of, at the core of what coalition building means. And what does it mean to be a part of a movement that's bigger than oneself, right? And, I too, as a Black woman, unfamiliar with this quote, but similar ideals kind of swirl around in my head to be in the position that I am in, working in transportation, working at the level that I'm working at in transportation, to be young, to be gifted, to be Black, right?
And I want to congratulate you on the awesome work that you are doing.
For our listeners, Ms. Jovida Hill and I, we're forming a friendship. And we have some great ideas and programs in store for you all. And so this will not be the last time that you hear these two voices in unison with one another. And so, Jovida, I really want you to tell our listeners, what do you project 5 years from now as being like the aspirational goals that you have, not only for the Office of Engagement for Women and the Philadelphia Commission for Women, but also for oneself?
Well, first of all, for the Philadelphia Commission for Women, I want to step back for a minute. The Philadelphia Commission for Women was founded by, actually, Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. She authored the legislation that was put as a ballot question to the voters of the city of Philadelphia back in 2015.
Yes.
And so the voters said, we want to have a Philadelphia Commission for Women. As such, this commission is comprised of 27 women. Each council person appoints a woman, and the mayor appoints 10 women. And they are charged with promoting economic empowerment and social and economic justice and gender equality for women.
Yes.
To take that back a little bit, this is not the first Philadelphia Commission for Women. Under the administrations of Bill Green and Wilson Goode, there were commissions for women, but they were by executive order. And then after the Wilson Goode administration, there was no longer a commission for women. And so now there will always be a commission for women because now Philadelphia voters voted for the charter change that created it.
Yes.
And so it will be forever. So I get to be, now how good is that? I get to be the first executive director of a commission for women that will be
in existence
forever.
Yes.
Until we get to the point where it's no longer needed because there is social justice and there's gender equity and there seems not to be a need to have a commission for women because women are equal in every aspect of our society.
Yes.
So in saying that, the whole idea that I could be the first and to be able to build something that's going to be here and part of the city of Philadelphia and the civic life of the city of Philadelphia, that's pretty darn awesome.
Yes, absolutely. That's exciting. It's really, really exciting. So, Jovida, could you tell our audience what success means to you?
Success to me is following your passion. Because if you follow your passion, everything else will fall into place.
Yes.
The kind of work you want to do, the kind of people you want to be surrounded by.
Yes.
Your friendships, your work life, your home life, your income. Because when you're following your passion, you're going to be damn good at whatever it is you set out to do.
Yes.
Follow your passion.
Wow. Today, our guest was Ms. Jovida Hill. She is the Executive Director of the Office of Engagement for Women for the City of Philadelphia. A founding member of African Sisterhood and Women Gather Conference, Hill currently serves on the board of the Black Women's Alliance and the Logan Square Neighborhood Association. Jovida, for those who are interested in staying in touch with you and perhaps may be interested in joining the Philadelphia Commission for Women, how can they get in touch with you? How can they sign up?
Okay. I guess the easiest thing to do is to give my email address.
Okay.
And my email address is jovida.hill@phila.gov. And the phone number at my office is 215-686-2154.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was purely a beautiful conversation, and I have gained so much from our discussion, and I know our listeners have as well.
Thank you, Tiffany. It was a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. My name is Tiffany Spraggins-Payne, and I'm signing off.
Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Martin, the producer and sound engineer for the Grit Studios. If you enjoy our podcasts, the most important thing you can do to support us is share this episode with your family and friends and let us know what you think about it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. Subscribing is 100% free. Don't know how to subscribe? Don't worry about it. There's a video walking you through the process in the show notes below. We will see you next week, and thank you for listening.